The cinema is about to witness a monumental event, the Passion of Christ, the Resurrection, directed by Mel Gibson. It presents itself as a work destined to transcend the conventional. The story that transformed the world more than 2,000 years ago returns with a portrayal never before achieved, where the human and the divine converge in a narrative that challenges the limits of cinematic art. In this video, I will tell you everything that is known so far, release date, cast, and most importantly, what it will be about. The resurrection of Jesus was not only a historical event, it was an act that marked the beginning of an irreversible change in the course of humanity. This film project approaches the moment with astonishing depth, showing not only what happened on earth, but also the echoes that crossed realities beyond the visible. The tension of the days following the crucifixion fuses with the majesty of the eternal, where spiritual forces take center stage in a struggle that transcends human understanding. In this film, the details are not simply images, they are a bridge to the mysteries surrounding the resurrection. From the heartbreaking silence that dominated the tomb to the transformative impact that shook the apostles and their followers, every moment has been crafted with an intensity that promises to deeply move the audience. The artistic decisions behind this project reveal a level of commitment rarely seen in contemporary cinema. After 2 decades of waiting, this work arrives with the intention of making a landmark unique to the emotion of those who have been involved in its development. The first testimonies about its content have generated growing anticipation with each announcement. What is to come is not simply a film, but the possibility of contemplating an extraordinary representation of one of the most important moments in history. From the tomb to the supernatural realm, the dawn of that third day brought a change that could not be contained by human or spiritual forces. The women who approached the tomb did so carrying the weight of mourning, prepared to face the emptiness left by death. But in the place where they expected to find a body, they found something that shook the foundations of their understanding. An empty tomb surrounded by an atmosphere that seemed to overflow with power and mystery. The appearance of the angels was not a simple visual event. Their words not only announced that Jesus had risen, but also altered the perception of those who heard them. Why do you seek the living among the dead? This message marked not only the return of the teacher, but also the opening of a kingdom that transcends the earthly. With that statement, the impossible ceased to be so, and the divine broke into the visible world, leaving unmistakable signs that the victory over death was absolute. The resurrection was not an isolated event. While the apostles dealt with their fear and confusion, dimensions that remain hidden to human eyes were activated. The place where it was believed souls waited after death was exposed as a reality in transition. The barriers between the physical and the spiritual fractured, allowing the triumph of Jesus to impact not only those who were present, but also the spaces where darkness had reigned. The concept of hell, so often associated only with punishment and pain, takes on a different role in this moment. The stage where Christ's authority is manifested in an indisputable way. The victory is not limited to the empty tomb, but extends to the deepest corners of existence, snatching power from the forces that sought to retain it. The events of that day not only transformed the understanding of those who witnessed them, but marked a fracture in history, a point where time seemed to stop in the face of the power of something eternal. Every element of what happened, from the shock of the women to the liberation of the waiting souls, becomes a symbol that transcends the human. The apostles and the power of faith had locked them behind walls that seemed as fragile as their hope. Every step resonated on the ground, but not in their spirit. The apostles were paralyzed, trapped between uncertainty and the memory of the cross. However, what happened after the resurrection of Jesus was such a powerful awakening that neither persecution, nor threats, nor death could stop it. The appearance of the risen teacher changed everything. His words did not fall on sleeping ears, but on hearts that burned with something they didn't even fully understand. "Peace be with you," he told them. And that peace, so different from anything they had known before, pulled them from the abyss of doubt. What was once fear transformed into purpose. The arrival of the Holy Spirit was the point where their faith became an unstoppable force. They not only found the words to proclaim the message of Christ, but also the courage to face the authorities, the crowds, and the very world that had persecuted them. Each one of them, with their weaknesses and doubts, became a living testimony of the resurrection. The sacrifice was not a distant idea for them. It was a reality they embraced with every step. The movie could depict these moments with an intensity that not only reveals the external acts, but also the internal struggles that strengthened them. Peter, who had denied the teacher, preached with such conviction that thousands listened. Thomas, who doubted, carried the message beyond known borders. Each apostle was a spark that ignited a flame impossible to extinguish. The perseverance of these men did not stem from their natural bravery, but from the certainty of having seen the eternal break the chains of death. What makes someone give their life for what they believe? The answer is not found in their words, but in what is reflected in their actions. And that is the strength this story could show. Not simply men, but witnesses of a power that transformed the course of history. The beginning of a production that will transcend dimensions, with the first clapboard marked in January 2025, the resurrection of Christ, the long-awaited sequel to The Passion of the Christ, has officially begun filming under the direction of Mel Gibson. This project, years in the making, promises not only to continue the story that transformed the spiritual, but also to present an unprecedented portrayal of the events following Jesus' resurrection. Jim Caviezel, returning to the iconic role of Jesus, has expressed his enthusiasm for the script, describing it as something that will surpass everything seen in the first film. To maintain visual continuity with the 2004 film, Caviezel will be digitally rejuvenated as the plot begins just 3 days after the crucifixion. His performance will focus on the majesty and authority of the risen Christ, in contrast to the human suffering depicted in the first film. The script, developed by Gibson and Randall Wallace over more than 7 years, encompasses an epic narrative that includes depictions of hell and the heavenly realm. These dimensions will be recreated with an unprecedented level of visual and symbolic detail, showcasing the magnitude of Jesus' victory over death and the fracture between light and darkness. According to statements from the director, the film will also connect this event with the rise of the early church and the spiritual impact that defined the history of humanity. Filming is taking place in locations in Malta, Morocco, and Israel, carefully chosen to reflect the historical rawness and grandeur of the spiritual events. The technical team is working in collaboration with visual effects specialists to bring the supernatural realms to the screen, creating a cinematic experience that aims to be both striking and immersive. At the heart of the film is the eternal battle between good and evil. Spiritual forces are not depicted as mere symbols, but as living realities that interact with earthly events. This confrontation will be presented on a scale and depth that seeks to challenge the viewer's imagination. The beginning of filming marks an important step for this project, which remains one of the most anticipated cinematic events of the century. And with that, we conclude our review of the resurrection of Christ. Undoubtedly, this movie promises to be a unique experience, bringing to cinema one of the most transcendent moments in human history with a level of depth and emotion never before seen. What do you think about everything that awaits us in this project directed by Mel Gibson? Are you excited to see the continuation of the Passion of the Christ? Leave us your comment below. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on all the news. See you in the next video.